Donatelli. Welcome to Reader Seeks Romance, the #1 romance novel talk show on YouTube. In today's episode, I chatted with USA Today best-selling contemporary romance author Stephanie London. Stephanie discussed her small-town romance, Forever Starts Now, featuring Chris Hemsworth, and she shared her love of prickly female heroines. Also, Stephanie and I played Match Game, Small Town Edition. Enjoy, and be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Hi, Stephanie. Welcome to Reader Seeks Romance.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
It is a pleasure. I recently read your new contemporary small town romance, Forever Starts Now, and I found it thoroughly delightful from beginning to end and a little sexier than I had expected,
Yep.
which was a wonderful surprise.
So in case we want to see the cover, this is Forever Starts Now. It is a small town contemporary romance with a dash of humor, and also don't let this sweet little cover fool you. There is a little bit of steam in here. And it's a story about an Australian man who finds out that the man he thought was his father is actually not his father at all. His mother is unfortunately passes away, and on her deathbed she tells him that basically everything he thought about his family was a lie. And so he goes on an adventure to the US to find out where his father is really from. And just for a little bit of humor, because I like to put that in all of my books, he looks exactly like Chris Hemsworth, but to the point that people stop him in the street and ask him for autographs, and it causes all kinds of problems for him when he's trying to lay low and slink around finding information. And everybody wants to know why Thor is filming a movie in this tiny town. So it's really super fun. The heroine is the owner of a diner that is really struggling in a small town that has not a lot of people coming through. She's struggling to keep the business afloat, and they end up in a fake relationship, because that's my favorite trope, and I try to put it in as many books as I possibly can because I love it so much.
So, as you mentioned, Ethan, the main romance protagonist, he looks a lot like Thor actor, Chris Hemsworth. So you have a fake relationship and a fake celebrity,
Yes.
because eventually he kind of just goes with it. Did you consciously decide to double down on the fake trope?
No, I don't think so. Because this book kind of came about in a very strange fashion. My editor had said to me, she's like, "Oh, let's do another small town. And can you give me like a Viking, like Thor type hero?" And I was like, "Oh, one, yes, of course I can write that, because I love that." But two, I had also seen a documentary it was called Twin Strangers, and it's about these total strangers that look exactly alike. And really, the book is actually about identity and figuring out who you are. So it was kind of like all these, like, it's like an onion, all these layers that kind of are centering around this idea of the us that we present to the world versus the us that we really are, and trying to understand what the difference between those two things is. So it was sort of a very organic process. It started from some small little thing, but in the end I was like, oh yeah, I can see how this all fits together. It just, for me, I'm a very organic writer. I kind of never make those decisions consciously. It's all just percolating up there.
So now, when we meet Monroe, who is the female romance protagonist, she is very cynical. She's crabby. Like you mentioned, she's divorced and still has some, I guess, trauma from that experience.
Yeah.
And Ethan he's searching for his father, but he comes off as very hopeful, and he's a pleasant guy. So I really like how you flip the script by writing the female protagonist as the grump, since usually it's, grumpy guy meets his sunshine romance. Did you do that for, a specific reason? Were you just feeling like, hey, I want to, shake things up?
I love prickly, grumpy women. That just brings me an immense amount of joy. And it's definitely not the first time I've written that kind of a dynamic in a book. I have quite a few heroines that are definitely like not people. They're kind of, a little bit emotionally scarred and very protective, but they have this kind of heart of gold way down in there that the hero needs to kind of chip away to get to. And I just I sometimes I think it's because so much over my career I have been told to write nice women, to write likable women. And at some point I was like, no, all women deserve to be loved. So I'm going to write lots of different types, even the ones that are like less appealing, apparently. And funnily enough, they are almost always my heroines that really connect with my female readers.
That is awesome. I'm so glad that you said that, because the first thing I thought from like page one is like, oh, how refreshing. How refreshing. Right. Well, I was going to ask, like, do you feel, first of all, this was my first Stephanie London book. I know I'm late to the game. I wasn't sure if this was a departure from your normal books, but knowing that you do favor the prickly heroine, I am even more intrigued by your work. Neither Monroe nor Ethan are looking for love or relationship. How did you get this couple who isn't looking for love to fall in love with each other on the page? Did Monroe and Ethan like speak to you and say, let me show you the way? This is how you bring us together? Because some authors say that the characters speak to them. Or did you prepare, a very detailed story outline? Well, this is how they're going to fall in love.
I'm a very organic writer, and I like that because it sounds fancier than it is. It just means I have no idea what the story is when I start writing. I have a good idea. The characters are very, I wouldn't say they speak to me, but they're like in me. I can feel them. I can feel what they're feeling. I can feel generally where they've come from, what their history is. And so I do a lot of like excavation with my characters before I start writing. I have no idea what the book is going to be about when I start writing. It just, that kind of comes as I go. And it is interesting trying to write a story about two people who are quite resistant to being in a relationship and falling in love. And almost always my stories are very much about how does that person positively impact the other person's life? Because I think that's very much how I feel about my own marriage. My husband is a wonderful influence on me, and I think I am on him, and we sort of bring out, we're very different, but we bring out the best in each other. And that's always my approach when I'm putting the characters together, is to think about how are they going to push the other person to grow into the place that they need to be in order to be happy and fulfilled, both in a romantic relationship, but more importantly, beyond that, because I think that it's the holistic thing that really appeals to me about the happy ever after, not just the relationship.
Now, the town of Forever Falls is a delightful town. Did you draw upon real life towns to craft Forever Falls? What was the inspiration?
So that's funny. I think so when I first started writing, I actually never had any interest in small town romance. I'm a city girl through and through, always lived in a big city. And the first time I wrote a fictional town, I fell in love with the act of creating a place. Mm-hmm. And so this is the third town that I've created now. And I have a bit of a process where I sort of think about what is the feeling that I want the town to have, because they all have a bit of a different feeling. And then I sort of construct a place around that feeling, and I use aspects of the physical place to bring out the feelings. It's not really ever based on a real place. It's almost like a jigsaw puzzle of things that I've taken from all of the places I've been around the world.
Right.
There was what we call in Australia Mills and Boon, but would be a Harlequin here in America. It was one of the category books, the thin books, and I cannot for the life of me remember the name. All I remember was that they get stuck in a big storm and they find a cabin in the woods, and you know what comes next in the cabin in the woods in the rain. I think I must have been sneaking it off my mum's shelf or something when I was about 11 or 12, probably too young to be reading those things.
I have heard that very statement out of many authors' mouths. I was probably too young to be reading it. I've always enjoyed that setup, that forced proximity in a cabin, in the woods. It's raining. I find rain very romantic.
I do too. I actually had someone ask me in an interview recently, it rains a lot in your books. What's that about? And I was like, I find it, I don't know, intimate in a way. It just kind of creates a hush. It's kind of like snow in a way, where it sort of just makes everything feel closer and more intimate. I love rain.
I agree. And that brings me to the book cover. It's two pairs of rain boots. I didn't expect it to be sexy based on the cover. But then looking back, I'm like, oh, I get it. Knocking boots. Like, that's an expression for like, have you heard of that expression,
I
knocking?
have,
Okay.
yeah.
So I was like, oh, knocking boots. Maybe that was the hidden meaning. But was it because of your rain fascination?
So sometimes I'm going to be completely transparent here. Sometimes when the covers turn up in my inbox, I'm like, oh, okay, that's not what I was expecting, but sure, the marketing team knows what they're doing. And yeah, oftentimes with these scenic covers, they're not really taken from any specific thing in the book. They're just trying to capture the feeling of it, whereas at least with like people on the covers you get a bit more of a sense of the characters and things. I think for this book too, like they were never going to find a model that looked like Chris Hemsworth, so the models would never be accurate. So I think actually a scenery cover was very smart for this book because I kind of made their life difficult by doing that.
Well, that's true. That is true. That's a good point. Name a small town location for a meet cute.
I'm going to say bakery because I'm a sweet tooth and I think a hot guy and cupcakes is an excellent combination.
Do you know, I was going to go with bakery and I thought you might not go with bakery because I felt like it might be obvious. So I picked a gazebo. I fell off of a gazebo and he picked me up.
My ankle. Oh no.
Yeah, walking into the gazebo, I twisted my ankle. Most romantic activity for a first date in a small town.
I'm going to say it's a beachside town and they're going for a walk on the beach.
Walk on the beach. Ah, that's a good one. For some reason, I immediately thought bowling.
Oh, yes. That's fun.
Sexiest place in a small town to have sex.
Oh, that's a tough one. I'm going to say on a balcony somewhere.
Oh, a little bit of exhibitionism going on with that.
Yes.
Now I've got bakery in my head. So I put down an alleyway outside a bakery. Yeah. Kind of like you're eating those cupcakes and then you guys drag each other out to the alleyway and have sex.
Well, and they're both outdoor locations, so that's good.
A small town job for a romance protagonist.
I'm going to say the owner of an art gallery.
Oh, that's
local work. Yeah.
That's, yeah, I could completely see that too in a small town romance. Like, I put librarian.
Oh, I was going to say librarian.
Were you? Oh.
I was like, no, that's too obvious. I have to change it.
Okay, you see, so far we've kind of missed each other.
Outwitted each other.
Okay. A type of small town event during which the protagonists explore their mutual attraction.
I'm going to say trick-or-treating because I've never done it and I've always wanted to.
You've never trick-or-treated?
No, Halloween's not really a thing in Australia. So I've never done the Halloween thing, and I don't know. I find Halloween romantic in a weird way. I don't know, maybe because I like spooky things.
Yes, I agree. Now you live in Canada, correct? So they don't have trick-or-treating in Canada either?
I've never seen adults trick-or-treating. Like I've only ever seen, and because I live in a condo, we don't get trick-or-treaters because they're not allowed to come up on all the floors. Okay. So they used to have, like in our building, they would actually have like a big party downstairs that people all take their kids, but there was no adults dressed up.
Well, I picked a dance in a barn.
Oh, okay. Like, is that a square dance? Is that what they call it?
Like a square dance or some kind of harvest ball. Like I was thinking the fall time.
Yes.
So I do think fall, Halloween, it is generally small town gold. So I was thinking of like a barn dance.
Yeah, that would be super fun.
Feel free to use any of these ideas.
Just be like taking notes.
I as long as you thank me in the acknowledgements, you're good. I won't sue you. A small town struggle that either one of the protagonists must face. A small town struggle.
I'll have to say gossiping because I feel like that is just peak small town issues.
That's good. I did not think gossiping.
Oh.
I thought of the struggle being a closing of a beloved local business that they have to save.
Yes.
Sadly, we did not match. We kind of almost matched on 2.
Yeah. If we'd gone with our first instincts, we would have.
Yes, if we go, so I think that's the lesson of Match Game, is go with your first instincts.
Yep.
And also that we can have great minds, but we don't have to think alike.
It's true.
It has been such a pleasure to chat with you here on Reader Seeks Romance. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks so much for having me. This was really fun.